Salut, c'est Marie de Just French It. Comment ça va? I'm good. I've had a few cars adventures this week, but that's not what I'm going to talk about today. Don't worry. So today we are going to talk about conversation again, and I'm going to give you some tips to have a better conversation in French. Because if you have watched the first presentation of the week, and you should, you know that the number one reason why you are not able to converse in French, even though you understand French okay, is because you are lacking some basic knowledge. You know that it's not because you know a few words and can guess the meaning of a sentence that you will be able to actually speak with someone, right? And you know that the solution is not Duolingo or not to pay hundreds of dollars for language schools, no. But we talked about that enough in the first presentation. So what I want you to do today and what we're going to do together is see some extra tips because, you know, conversing is kind of an art, meaning that there are things you can do to make people you converse with much more comfortable and to avoid the awkward blank silences. But it's not necessarily something that everyone knows. So these tips are not only going to make your conversation in French easier for you, but they are also likely to help you make friends out of the people you choose to have a conversation with. That's really powerful. So here are a few extra tips to get your conversation going. First tip, do simple. If you are not able to have a conversation yet, I am not going to promise you that you will be able to talk philosophy and theology by next week. No. And you shouldn't believe anyone who is telling you that. No. At first, you need to do simple. That's the whole base of my new course, 7 days to your first French conversation, which I'll talk further about at the end of this podcast, and that I actually presented to you in the first presentation. But remember this. Simple sentences are the most straightforward way to carry an idea. That tip to do simple is also good for you, and I want you to listen to this also if you are an intermediate or an advanced learner. I'm hanging out a lot more actually than I would like on language learning chats, and I'm a bit addicted. But on those chats, I meet a lot of advanced and intermediate learners who are trying to show off a bit. At least that's how they come across. When you are using the most complex sentences to say something, chances are you are doing at least one of those three things. First reaction or first thing that happens when you use complex sentences to express yourself is that you do not appear to be an honest and simple kind of person. And that's not good for conversation because I'm not sure I want to have a conversation with someone who is not honest, right? The second thing it does is that it shows and it proves to everyone who is here and listening to you that you do not master the language you are talking. Because with complex and more complex sentences, you are going to make a lot of mistakes. Okay, mistakes are not a problem. The problems are not the mistakes. It's the fact that you could have used much more simple sentences that people are actually using and that are much more natural and that you didn't do it because you wanted to show off. And so it proves that you do not master the language you are talking. The third thing that it does is that it tells whoever you are speaking to that for you, the form is much more important than the message. And when you want to have deep and meaningful conversations with people, well, the message, the content is what matters, not so much the form. So unless you are using the sentences for humorous purposes or because it's the only way you can express what you are trying to say, do simpler. And in French especially, simpler is crucial. And simple is very straightforward actually. It's a subject, a verb, and a complement with some details added here and there. And I actually have a video about that on my YouTube channel, so you can go and check that out. If you type French sentence structure, just French it, you should be able to find it. But don't forget to make simpler, to do simple when you are speaking in French. And unless you master, complex sentence structure, try to stay away from them, especially when you are talking to people, because here the communication, getting your idea across is what matters. My second big tip for you is to have strong foundations. We've talked about that already in the last presentation. And having your foundation in check. What are foundations actually? What are your foundations? Well, they are the words and sentences that you need to use over and over again when talking with people. For example, hello, how are you? I'm good. What do you do? Those are basic, basic words and sentences that you need if you want to be able to converse with someone, right? But also, you need polite words and sentences specific to the language you are speaking. So in French, you need to know how to say thank you and please, because if you do not use those words when speaking in French with a native, they'll probably think you are rude, because politeness is really a big thing for French people in France. Careful though, I am not saying that you need to be perfect before you start speaking. No. What I mean is that you need to be aware of those basics before you try to have deep, meaningful conversations with someone. Because it'll do a few things, having those foundations. First, it's going to make you a much more confident speaker, because you'll be more used to speaking with someone because you actually have learned the foundations. The second thing that it'll do, and that it's very important as well, it helps you select which kind of people you want to talk to. You probably have done that already. I've done it, I know. That when you are starting to speak with someone, you don't know them. And if they don't respond well to the first 3 or 4 questions that you ask, if they are, answering in syllables, or if they really come across as rude, I will just stop talking to them, right? There's no point going on with those people. So if the person with the foundations that you have come across as rude or boring, the person itself might not be the problem. It might just be that you two don't click. Well, it might be better to keep the interesting topic for someone who will actually enjoy it, and for someone who you actually want to speak to. Right. Third tip is to ask questions, because what makes me super mad when I start a conversation with someone. It's when the questions are one-sided and the other person is simply replying, and you? And I get that often. Believe me, I get that often. And as I said, I hang out on, chats, on language chats very much. Conversation in itself is not easy. I get it. But there are a few things you could do to make sure that your conversations are not simply a series of questions and answers. First, don't just sit there and wait for people to ask you questions. It's not because you are a beginner that you don't know how to ask someone's job, or where they are from, or what they are doing. So try to avoid answering every question that, someone has asked you with, and you? What you can do instead is repeat the question, or simply ask further questions about the other person's answer, right? Because when people tell me what they are doing, what their jobs are, I always ask them to explain it to me. First, because a job title is kind of pompous and generally tells me nothing about what the person actually does. And second, because it gets the conversation going, right? Imagine if you were talking with someone who is learning English, is asking you, what do you do? And you reply, oh, I'm a software engineer. If they stop there and move on, well, you feel like it was just a question to fill a form, right? It doesn't feel personal. Rather than if they asked you after that, oh, what does a software engineer do? Well, you have plenty to say. It's your job, right? So questions are good. They get the conversation going. Except one, actually, because there is one question that you should avoid at all cost. And it's generally the first question a learner will ask a native. Do not ask if they can teach you French. Please. This is not first-time conversation material. And the native that you are asking this question to is probably here to have a good time, right? Not teaching you French. As a teacher, and when I reply that I'm a teacher to people asking me what do I do, well, I get this one a lot. And I love to teach. But when people who are on a conversational website or here to chat in another language, asking for a lesson, that's not good. And you'd do the exact same if you were me, teacher or not. So if you want someone to teach you French, you should hire a teacher. Your conversation partner is here to make you practice, but not make you practice, to be there to practice with you. Okay. A final tip is to engage. engage. It goes with the questions, because the more questions you'll ask, the better your chances to make a friend, right? That is, if you do react to the answers and truly engage with what is being said, right? Don't let the conversation become a native monologue either. React to the answers. You can use reaction words at first, without going full on about it, because French people like to be subtle, or at least, appear subtle. So at the beginning, it can simply be words like I agree or wow, really, and those little words, they already get the conversation going. And they are especially crucial online if you are using a text-based chat or only audio, since you cannot see the face of the other person. Well, you need to still show them that you are interested in what they are saying, right? Because the goal here, to engage, means simply to make the conversation personal and not robotic. You'll see that after a while, you'll start the conversation the same way. Hello, how are you? I'm good, how are you? Okay. Simple, might sound a bit superficial, but that's how you get the conversation going. And your role from here, to make friends and find, lifelong conversation partners, if you will, it's to make it personal. And it's pretty easy to do so. You can use the name of the person when you are talking. For example, oh, how are you? I don't know, if I am talking with Maria, I would say, how are you, Maria? Okay? That makes it personal, and the other person actually wants to speak to me because, I'm saying her name. You can also, second thing, it's not that you can also, you should remember what they have said and ask how their day went with specific references. If I just ask you, how are you? But that last time you told me you were sick. Well, I could have asked, are you feeling better? Or, something a bit more specific, like I am not talking to a robot. I am talking to someone who actually I've had a conversation with, or someone that is just not a robot, someone human. The third thing that you can do is to share something that happened to you and that is related to their interest. Generally, if you are using online stuff, you see that there are profiles, right? Those profiles are not just here to be pretty, right? They're not just here to show the picture of the person you are talking to, right? So, read the profile. Okay, what books are they reading? What do they mention there? Do they like a specific sport or something? Well, then you can draw on that. For example, if the person mentioned that she was reading a book by Tim Ferriss at the moment, you can pick up the book and check it out, and next time you can have a conversation about the topic, right? So there you go. It's as simple as that, really, to have a better conversation with your language partner. What you can do, my general tips is to do simple, especially if you are a beginner, to ask questions, to avoid the one-sided robotic conversation, to engage with what is being said, to make everything personal, and then to have strong foundations in terms of culture and sentences that you use over and over again. So if you are a bit lost when it comes to foundations, I actually recommend that you take a look at my new course, 7 Days to Your First French Conversation. It gives you exactly what you need to start conversing with French natives and get you ready to do so in 7 days. Careful though, word of caution, yeah. This is not a course that will make you fluent, nor does it claim to be. It is a course to get those foundations. By the end of next week, depending when you are listening to this podcast, you will be speaking French with a native. I'm talking you through all you need to know to start on strong foundations and finally start speaking French. So here's how you'll do it. Each day you will get a new video to watch. So 7 videos for 7 days to learn the basics of French conversation, right? From those videos, you will learn how to introduce yourself for conversation, talk about yourself, asking questions, and react also to what your conversation partner is saying, because we are focusing on conversation, and conversation is more than just facts, as we just saw. You will also learn about how to make your French more fluid, to, get the conversation going. And one thing that I'll do as well, and it's something really special, it's a sort of secret of mine, and it's what I call the cheat sentences. And I've actually been using those sentences to make friends all over the world. And I've been doing that for more than 10 years, and I'm happy to say that I have a lot of friends all over the world. So the link to this course is in the description box below the video, or you can go to justfrenchit.com and click on school. It is still on offer until the end of the week, so hurry up if you want a super bargain, because it's really, really cheap for what it is. Remember everything that I talked about today and use it if you are already speaking in French with someone. And if you are not, time to get your conversation started. I'll see you in the first module of the course. Bye.